Olá, João. Boa tarde. Good
Boa
afternoon,
tarde.
John.
Good afternoon to
So
you. Thank you.
you want to try to talk in Portuguese, or you think you can do it in English? So
Well, I think that we will need to mainly have the conversation in English, and I thank you for that. But as you
yeah.
know, I do speak a very little Portuguese. So before we start, if it's okay, I will say a few words, say a greeting in Portuguese for your followers in Brazil, if it's okay.
So it's more than okay. So please be so kind and talk in Portuguese with us because as I briefed you before, this is like a friendly talk that we are doing to entertain us during this pandemic time. So please take your time and try to talk to us in Portuguese if you want to.
Very good. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado. Antes de começar, eu quis dizer algumas palavras em português para os seguidores de Matheus no Brasil. Primeiro, obrigado, Matheus, por convidar-me para esta conversa hoje. E obrigado a todos vocês que estão vindo na casa. Eu sinto muito que eu não posso conversar hoje totalmente em português. Eu lamento que eu não falo nem entendo bastante bem para discutir de coisas sérias, mas eu sei que o português é uma língua bonita e eu quero dar saudações a todos os nossos amigos no Brasil e no mundo todo. So thanks to everyone in Brazil and in the world for listening. And I'm sorry that I have bad Portuguese. I can't have a serious conversation in Portuguese, but thank you, Mateus, for letting me say hello and for being flexible to speak with me today, mostly in English.
Oh, don't worry. Your Portuguese is very good, John. You are more than capable to live in the country right now. So as I do in all these little chats that I have with my friends, I always start asking the same questions, kind of like a habit. So I want us to try to remember where did we met? You know, if you remember. So where is the place or the time that we both started to know each other?
Yeah, I remember the city and the occasion. It was at the NAFSA conference, the year that it was in Denver, which I
Denver.
think was, 2015, maybe. NAFSA
16,
as
16,
16, okay.
16,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, NAFSA is a conference for people in the field of international education. And Mateus, of course, you are a university professor, among other activities. And I, at the time, was working with an organization which promotes international internships. So that is why we were at the conference, and I think we were introduced by our mutual friend, Andre Neto, at one of the social events on the sidelines of the conference in Denver.
My memory is a little bit better than yours. I remember that we met on the Australian reception. It was in like a beer place. They serve a lot of beers. Yeah, and they had pizza, and we chat a lot about how you you were actually flying to Boston as I were too. You know, we are in the same direction because after that conference, I would go to Boston to spend 3 weeks or so, and you're gonna go to Boston. Then you're gonna travel all the way to Chile, if I remember correctly, something like that. That was your plan. So people that don't know, John is like a true travel. No, traveler. He travels all the world and have been your photo is amazing, and how you know frame each story in each place that you pass it is fantastic. And you also one thing that impressed me a lot when we met, you are also so engaged not only in creating opportunities for international students as we speak, you know, people that are trying to get some kind of education, but your company or the company that you're working for was trying to create opportunities for people to work abroad. That seems to me very impressive at the time because it knows it's a small fragment of the sector that nobody was aiming for. So I wanted to go back a little bit, John, so people can understand a little bit of your life story and how you get to Denver and how we meet in Denver and then how you travel from places. So I know that you have a background in New England. Sort of know, I don't know completely. Yeah, but can you tell us what did you study and how did you get in?
So it appears that the internet connection of Matheus maybe has failed, but I believe that the live stream is still happening on YouTube. And I heard some of the question of Matheus before his connection dropped. So while we wait for him to return, I suppose that I will answer about that, about my background in New England. I lived in New England my whole life, and I lived in Boston from age 17 for some number of years. And I worked in the investment industry there. And after a period of time, my wife and I, we both wanted to make a change of some kind. And we had always enjoyed traveling. And so we decided to try living abroad. And we moved to Chile in 2014. As Matheus mentioned earlier, when we met, I had plans to travel to Chile after the conference because that's where I was living at the time. And so I lived for a couple of years in Chile, in Santiago, Chile, approximately 2014 to 16. And then after that, my wife took a job in Ireland, and we lived there for a while in 2017. And I began to do some remote work during that time. And it looks like Matheus may be returning now.
Hi, John. Sorry,
hello, welcome back.
my internet just went dead, and I have to change places here anyway. So you're talking about your. Sorry for the interruption. I don't know if you already talked about that, but we are talking about your education. I believe that, and how you get international education later on. So what I know from knowing you, I know that you have a background from New England, and I don't know how that fits in the whole context of international education. If you can tell us a little bit, it would be great.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that the YouTube stream was still active while you were disconnected. So I began speaking about it a little. But yeah, I lived in Boston for a long time, and I worked in the investment industry. But after a period of time, my wife and I, we both wanted to make a change. We had always enjoyed traveling abroad, so we decided to try living abroad. And we moved to Chile in 2014. You mentioned that when we met, I had plans to travel to Chile after the conference, and that's because I was living in Chile at that time. But I went to Chile and I began to work with the Intern Group, which is the organization we mentioned that promotes international internships and organizes internship abroad programs for students and for recent graduates. So that's how I came to transition from New England to being in Latin America and being in the field of international education.
Yeah, but how that came to your life? Because bank investment is a pretty solid work, and like 8 in the morning to 5 at afternoon that you have to be in the office. Then you transition to something like a digital nomad, or somebody that is not in the office, but is different, living in different contexts. How did you realize that was a move that you wanted for your life?
Well,
how that came to?
Yeah, Matheus, I think there are two things in there to talk about: the career transition and the transition to being a digital nomad. On the career side, as you said, investment is a solid industry to work in, but it was very stressful. My working hours were much more than 8 to 5. And it was a conventional career path, but I was not very happy with it after a while. My wife and I just reached a time in our lives when we wanted to try something different, and it was interesting to me to go from there to working for a company which combined travel and education in the form of an internship abroad program, because those were two areas that were always of interest to me. I had never worked in the field of education previously. I had not even taken much education, perhaps, but it was always an area of interest to me. And an opportunity to combine that with travel and with the idea of living abroad myself was attractive to me. It was attractive to both of us, my wife and I. And so we pursued it. And the transition, go on.
No, I was asking you, this is 2014, if I'm not mistaken, something between. Yes. So did you, I remember that because in the same year, a year before I was in Chile, and it was, for me as a Brazilian, it was the first time that I went to Chile. It was a massive, difference between Brazil and how Chile and how people in Chile live. So it's very different. And I'm wondering how that change affected you also, coming from Austin, Texas, to to live in a South American culture, which is very different from the U.S.
It was to go from Boston to Santiago. Obviously, it was a change, but we were so excited to be there, and every day was like an adventure. And we didn't even really ever have a culture shock. There was never really any moment where we looked around and said, well, this is weird and this is very different from what we came from, because that was the reason why we went. We wanted to experience something that was different. We wanted to have a lifestyle and a culture and an atmosphere that was very distinct from living in Boston. If anything, we arrived at a situation where we experienced what some people call reverse culture shock, which is to say, after some time living in Chile, when we went back to Boston, back to the USA, things in the USA seem strange to us now because we had been away.
Yeah. That's very interesting because it's like you said, like a reverse shock. You are so used to the new things that the contracts of the old things starting to blow up. But you were talking about being like a digital nomad, and can you explain the difference for us? Because I got confused. I really thought that you got into this to transform your office in like a notebook and move on to different things. And so how that happened in your life too?
Yeah, that was a gradual change, and there was never any one moment where it was our plan, and there was never a moment where we say, okay, yesterday we have normal life and tomorrow we will be nomads. It was gradual, because after a couple of years living in Chile, my wife received an offer of a job in Ireland. So we moved to Ireland, and she worked in an office there. And I continued to do some projects and some part-time work for the intern group, the company for which I had worked in Chile. So I began working remotely a little bit that way. And then after we had lived in Ireland for approximately 9 months, my wife's company offered her the opportunity to work remotely as well, whether from home or from some other place. So at that point, we realized both of us had the ability to work remotely, to work from any location. And we said, well, why don't we try traveling for a while? And nice. Our motto, our slogan always has been, it's not a vacation, right? Because even though we're traveling and even though we go to hotels and airports and things, it's not vacation. We work every day, but we just work in whatever location we happen to be. And so we tried this for a few months and we liked it. And we always said that we would stop being a nomad or stop traveling when we got tired of it. And that never happened. We were still going strong until March of this year. As you know, Brazil was the last country we were in before the pandemic situation really emerged. And of course, we haven't traveled at all since March.
Yeah, but that would be a fantastic story. I follow all your stories that you send every single month, the places that you went through, and it's pretty amazing. It's something that you know, from me, from outside, from someone that's reading and follow up in your story, is for me is a very successful case of somebody that transformed your life to something closer that you wanted to be, you know, to what I want for my life. So that's very impressive in my point of view. So when did you change from education? What are you doing right now? Because you told me that the intergroup, the group that you work through, I don't know if you still with them or if you transition to something else, or if you incorporate a different lifestyle now with the pandemic. So how are your plans regarding to education at all?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I have remained involved with the intern group. I stopped being a full-time regular employee of the intern group like at the start of 2017, but I have continued to work with the intern group part-time, some hours here and there for consulting for projects, and I remain a member of the board of directors of the intern group. More recently, the last couple of years, I picked up some other consulting clients, you know, other projects that I can do remotely, you know, for various companies. There was a mobile app developer. There was a company that promotes Italian hotels in the United States. Yeah, a couple of other things. So I've done a small amount of work for several clients, and it's all work that I have been able to do remotely. And my wife, for her part, she works likewise all remote with a startup company out of San Francisco. She was a nurse by training, and she works with a company that's involved with nurse recruitment in the United States.
Oh, that's awesome. One thing that I wanted to ask you, because the pandemic will change a lot higher education or international education. You know, as a system, the change is already moving. So how are you perceiving that? So what inputs you seeing from all those changes that the pandemic is doing? For example, I'm as a professor, in March, I have to change all my teaching skills to be an online professor, because otherwise we could not continue to do the job that we needed to do. So, but I believe as a sector, as a, you know, as a whole entity, there are going to be a lot of changes. So how are you perceiving that as a person that are very smart and expert on international education?
Well, from my point of view, it's a strong process of adjustment, which is still happening, because I have never been very involved with classroom education. I have only been involved with mobility, and all of my colleagues and contacts in the field of international education are involved in mobility, in study abroad, in exchange programs, in internship abroad programs. And so many of the concerns, many of the problems which those departments and those professionals are oriented to solve don't exist currently. You know, so much of the activity in the world of educational mobility is about visas and passports. It's about insurance. It's about organizing appropriate accommodations and experiences and transportation. It's about making sure that the students are safe and that they are supported while they're in the destination. But currently, there is no destination. No students are traveling.
Yeah.
And so this means that so many of the problems with which the international education or mobility community has been designed to solve are now completely secondary. And these people and these professionals in this field have had to very rapidly learn how to solve an entirely new set of problems. Like you mentioned, you've got to learn how to deliver your classroom lectures and to organize a class remotely, online, on Zoom or something. And likewise, many of the professionals in my field are scrambling to organize virtual experiences and to try to deliver some element of the international travel without the student actually traveling anywhere, but organizing virtual experiences so that the student can still be exposed to another culture or a language or a professional experience in another country.
Yeah, I was in the US in March when everything shut down. It was pretty scary, we got a message, the classes will not come back, so we need to, everybody that wants to go home can go home, etc. So that was very, very, very scary moment. And we thought that would be like a radical change, although brief, but it was a radical change. It's not going to be brief, and probably everything that's coming after this is going to be different. So that's the feeling that I have as a professional and a professor. Everything's going to be in a way, in a levels different that we used to have in the past. But going back to your history, I know your first country abroad was Chile. So where did you go from there? It was Ireland, and then because you said that when you went there with your wife, then where did you go? Because right now I know you are in Spain, and I'm trying to map, all the links, all the parts that you're passing, because it's probably a very interesting story to know.
Maybe an interesting story in relation to some of the myths or misconceptions that people may have about the so-called digital nomad lifestyle. So many people, if they think of digital nomad, they think about someone who is a computer programmer or has some job in information technology like this, and that they sit in the beach in Thailand or in Bali. And it is true, there are a lot of digital nomads who are like that, but many of us are not involved in technology. And my wife is a great example. She's a nurse. You would think if there's any job in the world that cannot be done remotely, it would be nursing. But she finds a way to use her skills in a remote position. And likewise, we've never been to Bali or to Thailand. We like Latin America and Europe. And it's another misconception. People think that Europe is too expensive to do something like that, or they think that Latin America is too dangerous. But of course, that's not true. And we spent all of our time, almost all of our time, the last 3 years going between Europe and Latin America. And it's not expensive, and it's not dangerous, and it's not difficult. It's quite a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have an interesting story because we both spent time in Boston. So the first time I went to Boston was 2013, and they lost my luggage, and people used to say to me like this, oh, Boston is cold, New England is cold. So it was December, like 2 weeks before the Christmas. And when I arrived at Boston, my luggage was not there. And I made a stupid mistake of leaving my coat, the only heavy coat that you can imagine somebody from northeast of Brazil would have at home, which was not enough for the kind of freezing cold that was Boston. I was not there. So I had to spend a little time waiting for a friend of mine to pick me up. And he said, look, today is a Sunday. So what I'm going to do is like this. I'm going to drop you off in your hotel, and then we're going to see if there is any mall or somewhere else that you can buy clothes for 2 or 3 days, because we're going to be hit by a snowfall probably tomorrow. So you better have some clothes on, because it's going to get cold. And I was imagining, John, it's gonna get even colder than this, that's not to make a long story short. When I arrived at the hotel, they didn't have a reservation in my name. And the lady said to me, no, don't worry, a lot of people are moving out because it's going to be a snowfall, so probably going to be able to give you a room. So probably, it's used to say like probably, so if you could not be able, you're going to probably sleep in the street or something like that. And then I was able to buy a heavy, proper coat, winter coat, because that's the weather was cold. That's what I learned, but the people are not that cold. So that first day, a lot of people helped me, in the hotel, and my friend to pick me up to the store, and said, look, don't buy this cheap coat, buy this one, because otherwise I'm going to be freezing. And the weather was cold, was very cold, but people I could connect easily. That was the first thing that I learned in Boston, that I could connect, and then if I could connect with them, I can move things around. That's I don't know if that experience was the same for you. I don't remember if you live there, or if you were born there. I don't actually remember that, but I don't know if you have this kind of impression from the city that as I did. So you can share the experience that you had in Brazil also, so we can, do a parallel of things.
Yeah, it's interesting because within the United States, people from Boston have a reputation for maybe being not very friendly, maybe being a little rude.
So I was lucky.
Yeah, well, you were lucky, but also I think everywhere in the world, people are sympathetic to travelers. They're sympathetic to someone who is in an unfamiliar context and maybe doesn't know where to buy a heavy coat or how to ride the bus, or things like this. Because my wife and we have gone to, I don't know, 30 or 40 countries the last several years, and in every one of them, everyone was very kind to us. People are always kind to a traveler, a stranger, and people want a traveler to get the best impression of the place where they live. Many people don't want a traveler visiting their city or their country to walk away saying, oh, the people there are rude, they're terrible, they're thieves, something like that. People want to be understood and to make a good impression. And it's really been one of the very best things about traveling the way we have during these last few years, is the opportunity to meet so many people around the world, and to experience so much kindness from all of these people.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and that was my first impression. And so, share with us what were your first impression in Brazil? Because I know that you spent some time here.
Yeah, I have been fortunate to visit Brazil 3 or 4 times. The first time was in 2011, a long time ago. I've been fortunate also to visit different regions of Brazil. I have been to the Northeast and to Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, of course, and also in the interior. I went to Cuiabá and to Brasilia most recently, where I met with our mutual friend, Andre, in March. So, Brazil is like the United States or Russia or other big countries. The regions are distinct, and I enjoyed experiencing different parts of Brazil that way. To hear different accents and music and taste different foods and so on. And my first impression would have been in 2011 in Rio de Janeiro. And, of course, I stayed in a touristic neighborhood. I stayed in Leblon, and immediately I went to the beach at Leblon. And immediately on the first night, I drink a caipirinha. I did all of the touristic things. But as always, as everywhere, the people I met were very friendly, and of course it was helpful that I could say a few words in Portuguese, because wherever you go in the world, people are excited when you speak their language. People appreciate that you made the effort. So on that trip, we visited Rio, and we went also to the Northeast, to Recife and to Porto de Galinhas.
It's a beautiful beach.
Yeah, it's a terrific beach up there, and it was a good trip. That was just vacation, 10 days of vacation or something from my old job back in Boston. But since then, I have been able to go back on more occasions and spend more time in Brazil and experience more of the country.
No, you know something funny, John? From all the travels that I made to Boston, I always wanted to go to the beach, you know, and yeah, because you know it's a bay. Boston has a beautiful ocean view. It's beautiful, but I didn't have the time or the experience to go to the beach. And a friend of mine from San Diego, he's living now in San Diego. He was actually from New England also. He used to work at UMass, and we worked together in a big project. And he invited me last year to go to Cape Cod. You know that I you know only heard in books, whatever. And he invited me to go to Cape Cod, and said I said to him, look, you need to take me to the beach because I wanted to jump in the ocean and you know have like experience. And he told me, look. Cape Cod is known by the jaws, you know, you know, so it's not going to be very funny for you to jump in the water. So the sharks, and you know, you needed to be careful about that because otherwise it can be hit by a shark. And I said, look, I just wanted to, you know, take a little bit of steps in the water and you know, shower a little bit my body. And the water was freeze like hell, you know, it was
of course.
very cold. And outside it was hot because it was summer last year. But it's a beautiful area, but very different from Brazil. You know, my wife was with me and we drove all the way there. And when we arrived, she asked me, where is the beach? Because we only see trees and houses, and all the way back there was a beach. It's very different from Brazil, indeed, because here when we go to the beach, we go to as close as possible to the beach as we can. You know, we build houses nearby the beach as close as we can. So it's different lifestyle. So that was something that you know created a contrast for me at all. But I love it. It was a very good experience. I really enjoy being there. But it was a contrast between what we have in Brazil and what we have in the United States. But John, I know you love MPB. So how did you know found out, or how did you discover MPB? Or which one is your favorite singer or songwriter?
Yeah. I don't know if I have a favorite, but I know it was a long time ago, maybe 25 years ago. Just randomly on the radio, I heard a Brazilian song, an MPB song. It was the version of Água de Beber recorded by Astrud Gilberto.
What was the song? What was the song, John? I lost it. Sorry.
It was Água de Beber.
Água de Beber. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And I liked the song, and so I waited for the announcer to say the name of the song or who sang it or something, and then I went to Tower Records and I bought a CD that had the song on it, and that was my gateway. I liked whatever the disc was, and I tried more music and I listened to more performers, and it became one of my favorite types of music, and I like the classics. I like Tom Jobim and João Gilberto, who I was fortunate to see him perform a couple of times before he died a couple of years ago. Elis Regina is another favorite. And Caetano Veloso, I've been fortunate to see him perform live as well.
You know, I saw Caetano Veloso at Harvard in 2000 last year. Sorry, April last year. I arrived there for a week. I was doing there was a class and a workshop and something like that. And a friend of mine said to me, "Look, that tonight is going to be having we're going to have Caetano Veloso at there is a huge hall, the Sanders Theater. I remember
Sanders
the name.
Theater, yes.
Yeah, Sanders Theater. So I have 2 tickets, and one was for me and one was for another friend. But my other friend is not going, so it's yours. So I went to see them. It was an amazing experience, a very, very good experience. because it was a contrast for me. That beautiful New England theater, all wood, all made of wood, and Brazilian singing Brazilian songs to Americans. It was a very different experience, a very contrast experience. And I'm glad that he had an extra ticket so I could see that. So, John, how do you see the difference, for example, between Brazil and other countries in Latin America that you travel, that you experience? If there is many major difference that you may remember.
Oh, of course, certainly. Obviously there's the language difference and the different colonial history, and also the larger presence of African culture and people of African background in Brazil is much more than in Chile, for example, where I lived. And this is reflected in the language and, of course, in music and in food and other things. And I would say also it was a particular contrast for me compared to Chile, because, as I'm sure you know, Chile has the reputation of being, some people say, the British of South America. Chilean people do not fit the Latin stereotype of being exuberant and musical and outgoing. Chilean people are more reserved, and they are quiet, and they are formal. And of course, Brazilian people, many people in Brazil, they are not formal, they're informal, and they're exuberant, and they're fun. And so there is a real contrast in the national personality, the stereotypical national personality between a Chilean and a Brazilian. And it is, although it's a part of the same continent, the same region of the world, it's a very different culture and a different experience atmosphere for the visitor.
But I'm going to tell you a funny story. Those differences exist inside of Brazil also. For example, I come from the smallest state of Brazil, is Sergipe, and I went to study at UFBA, Federal University of Bahia, in Bahia, which is the right next state. And I used to live there, and people from my state are very reserved. We don't talk a lot. We know our place, and people from Bahia are very friendly. They are very open-minded. They talk to everybody. That's the way things go over there. So I was in the supermarket, and I reached for some fruits that was in the balcony, and a lady screamed at me, "Don't buy that! I bought those fruits last week, and I had diarrhea." So and I said, and I was looking to her and said, "From where? I know you, for you to say something very intimate to me like that." So prevent me to buy something. It was a very contrast experience. This was when I started to study over there. So that really changed the scenario for me, because I thought to myself, look, this is the way things are in my state. It doesn't mean that everywhere else is going to be the same. So in Brazil, we have those big contrasts, that because the country is very big, so people behave different from place to place. And it's kind of funny for me to say that, because that was what led me to open my mind when I was in contact with people from different countries, because I have to realize that people behave different regarding the situations that we have to face. So that's one point. And it was very funny, because I didn't know, seriously, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should thank her. "Oh, thank you so much for letting me know about that." Or if I should run away over that. But then I realized that was a contrast, that's how culture exists. So did you enjoy Brazilian food from your time here?
Yes, of course.
We have a different, little bit different food over here.
Yeah, of course. The first place I visited in Brazil was Rio, and I went to some restaurant the first night and ordered steak. And when the waiter brought the steak, he showed me a fork, and then he showed me a spoon, and then he used them and he cut the steak with the spoon, like to demonstrate to me how tender is the meat.
Yeah.
And I had never seen that before, so that was a good first impression. And I like the food in Rio de Janeiro, but maybe you will be glad to hear this. I think I prefer the food in the Northeast. I like tapiocas. It's a very simple food, like a street food from the Northeast of Brazil.
Like this one, because there is someone here next to me.
Perfect.
Yeah, waiting for when we have to have something to snack. So I already left here. Prepared.
That is fantastic. That is excellent. Yeah, so I like tapiocas, and there is a cake associated with Recife called bola de rolo. I like that as well.
Bolo de rolo is fantastic. My brother-in-law is from Recife, and his family is still there, and he's married with my sister. So from time to time, once a month, he travel all the way there and come back. He always bring a bunch of bolo de rolo to give away to people because they are the best, and from Recife. So how did you get to Spain, John? So because you spend a lot of time, I remember that you went to Turkey. I'm trying to remember some pictures that I saw on Instagram from you, but I remember that you sent us an email saying, look, I'm going to live in Spain, in Alicante. You just got our home. So how did that happen?
Yeah, it happened by accident. It was the last time we were in South America. It was 2018 in March, and we wanted to get from South America to Europe. So the best plane ticket, the cheapest airplane flight from South America to Europe on that date was from Sao Paulo to Lisbon. So we said, great, we'll go to Brazil, we'll go to Sao Paulo, and then we'll fly to Lisbon. But then we noticed on the website of the airline, the Portuguese airline, TAP, to fly from Sao Paulo to Lisbon was, I don't know, for example, $400. But to fly from Sao Paulo to Lisbon and then connect to another city was, say, $300. So in other words, you save money by traveling through Lisbon to go somewhere else. So we looked at the list of cities that were like this, and one of them was Alicante. We had never heard of Alicante. We knew nothing about it. But we said, listen, it would be very inexpensive to go there. It will be like the airline is paying us $100 to go to this place. So let's go. So we came here to Alicante, and we liked it, and we spent 1 month, and then we came back on another occasion, and we liked it. And probably a thing that a lot of people do when they visit another city is if you walk by the office of a property agent, you look in the window at the advertisements to see, well, what kind of houses do they have here and how much do they cost? And we were surprised at how very, very inexpensive are the houses in Alicante. So we bought one. We bought a very inexpensive flat or apartment, and we intended only to use it occasionally, like as a vacation place, a place to visit sometimes, and maybe the rest of the year we would rent it out.
While you're traveling.
Yeah, while we're traveling. And so because we did never intend to spend a long time in Spain, we don't have citizenship in Spain, we don't have any legal residency, we only have tourist status in Spain. So when the pandemic happened, we were glad to be able to come here to Alicante and have a place to stay. But unfortunately, we can't stay forever. We will have to leave soon because we don't have permanent status. We don't have the right to remain in Spain.
Yeah. So getting to this question, how do you think the pandemic will change your lifestyle? Because we're at reach a point that some of the borders are closed. People are not traveling right now. International education changed, and the changes are probably going to be tremendous for the future. So how do you think the pandemic will alter your lifestyle, your way of being an international traveler?
Yeah, certainly the pandemic already has changed our lifestyle very much, because our habit was to spend 1 month in each city and then move somewhere else. And we would spend 1 or 2 months in each country, a new city every month. And in the past, it was always easy because until this year, there were so many inexpensive flights, so many discount airlines connecting every city of the world. There were so many open borders, especially for people like us with a US passport. Until recently, it was a very good passport to have because we could visit so many different countries without a visa or without a difficulty. Likewise, Airbnb made it so very easy and inexpensive to find a place to stay for 1 month in any city in the world. And all of that is gone now. It's no longer possible for someone to cross borders easily, especially with a US passport. Our passport is not welcome in most of the world now. And likewise, the availability and abundance of cheap flights and cheap accommodation is gone. All of the elements that comprised our lifestyle are canceled. We don't know when they come back, if ever.
Yeah, I hope that they come back too, at least at some point, because for example, I have a friend that is a pilot, an international pilot. He's at home for almost 4 months now. That's severe because it's altered completely his lifestyle. He used to be at a country, 4 or 5 days later in another, and then another, and then another.
Yeah.
He got used to that, and it's like traveling is like airline companies like the brain system of this idea of international life. So in somehow things need to come back as a new normal, or with new regulations or new things, so we can be able to do things that we enjoy as part of our jobs. So that's one point that really scares me, is not knowing when we can come back or do things that we like to do, because I really enjoy traveling. I did a lot of traveling for Boston because of work, but I have a chance to meet other places in the US, and I give you an insight. For example, I went to California and I went to Boston. It looks to me like two different countries. It's not the same. As well as the time that we spend in Denver, it looked completely different from one city to another. And I also had the opportunity to spend some time in Europe, and that's a total different deal. It's completely different experience. As you will imagine in Spain, it's a different way of living. But one thing that I really enjoy of this I don't have this like a lifestyle as you have. I see this for me as like an opportunity to reach to people. Is the idea that we can understand us a little bit better if we go there and experience things as people do in their own culture. So if you can understand us better, it's probably we're not gonna have too much wars or other problems to be concerned about. So that's the main goal for me in terms of international, or either education or international lifestyle, is the idea that we can do like an adventure and go there just to experience things as people do, and try to understand how they do those things and why they do those things, so we can understand them better. I don't know if you have that impression too, or have that idea behind the idea of being international travel.
Yeah, certainly. And it's one of the great benefits of international travel is that exposure and understanding that it creates between people from different cultures. And just as you said, if there was more exposure, if there were more interaction between people from different languages, cultures, religions, regions, lifestyles, then surely there would be less conflict in the world, and there will be more understanding, more accommodation, more compromise, more respect.
Yeah, more respect. Yeah, that's one thing. I studied at Netherlands for a summer, and it was a group of people that from all over the world. That was the idea. And in the beginning, I have this fresh memory because nobody talked to each other. Everybody was a little bit, And by 3 or 4 weeks, everybody knew each other. Everybody knew why they're drinking or eating in that way, or why they have that habit instead of other things. And it was a very interesting and impressive experience on me. And that was helped me to keep me going and always try to achieve opportunities to engage internationally. So, John, do you have any last memory that you want to share, that that you can share with us, that you think is funny or that you think is interesting to everybody that is listening to our private conversation right now?
I don't think there's any particular story, but for anyone who might still be listening, I think I would just want to emphasize the value of travel. And Matheus, I know just like me, you must be looking forward to the time when it will be safe and it will be easy to travel again. For all of the reasons that we mentioned, for travel as an experience of education, for travel as an experience of sensual pleasures of food and music and beaches and sunshine, and travel as an opportunity for understanding between people.
Yeah, totally agree with you, John. And we are looking for that because, I'm at home for 4 months, and I really want to, to be able to get out of my, my house for a while, and be able to, most of all is to explore, because I want to share something. When I started to travel, it was not by plane, it was by bus. I used to travel every week. I used to go to Salvador and come back from my city to study, and every week that was an experience. It was a different experience. Every week I learned something different, from 4.5 hours of traveling by bus, and a lot of difficulties to go to study, and then 2-3 days later I'll come back to my city, because it was cheaper to travel than to live at Salvador at that point in my life. So, but that gave me a huge confidence in traveling, because if I can do this in a lousy bus and in the very difficult situations, it's easier to do it in an airplane and to go somewhere far and trying to reach out to people. I'm trying to do something here. Just a second, because I wanted to see if I have this song here to play it aloud for you. But my computer is not helping me today. I don't know why. Let me see. Can you hear, John?
Água de beber. I hear it now, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So we are finishing our little show today with one of the most impressive music from MPB.
Performed by Tom Jobim himself.
Yeah, performed by Tom Jobim. So that was my way to say thank you to you, John, for doing this. I know you're a busy man, and I know you have a lot of things to do. And this little segment that I'm calling like a talk show is something funny that I invented with my friends to pass the time, because I cannot leave home. So at least I can see my friends, and we can talk a little bit of something serious and something not that serious also, something funny in our time, and deliver this to people who may want to find this interesting, or to find this relevant at some level and discuss it. I know that Andre sent us something in the comments. So I would like to say hello to Andre also. I didn't see the comments, so sorry about that, guys, because my connection went dead in the beginning. So I really wanted to concentrate and talk to John, and I'm sorry about that. But I'm registering that Andre was with us today. So big hugs to Andre.
Yeah, that's great. Big shout out to Andre and to everyone else who was listening, I see comments from Jane Guimarães. Jane, thank you also for your comments. Thanks to everybody, and thanks most of all to you, Matheus. This has been a lot of fun. It's great to see you and to chat with you. And I'm just very grateful for this opportunity that we've had to enjoy this conversation today.
And I'm looking forward to our conversation in person at my house here at Aracaju whenever you want to come. Minha casa é sua casa, as you know, né? Minha casa é sua casa. So
right.
when you want to come and just show up and you be treated like a true friend. That's our special way of receiving friends.
Yeah, thank you very much. Likewise, I hope we'll see you here in Alicante sometime. And until then, you'll be ready for the knock at your door. It might be me.
I will be glad opening that door for you, John. Don't worry.
Terrific. Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, let's just do this.